Whiskey Jason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, often tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I have something from Ransom. I don't know how popular and available Ransom is in your part of the world, but this is the T. Henry Ransom bourbon whiskey. Now on the side of the bottle it says here, corn, rye, wheat, and malted barley. I'll talk about the mash bill in a moment, but that is very unique. If you'd like, you can also already start writing down any bourbons you know with more than 4 grains. Usually we have a 3-grain bourbon, corn, wheat, and barley, or corn, rye, and barley. So this actually has here our corn, rye, wheat, and barley. So it says here, small, handcrafted batches, no robots. Now, I have no idea what the Ransom people here have against robots. I do remember being at Springbank and they're like, we have no computers here. Therefore, we are a better distillery. Look at that chalkboard. That is our computer. We're doing it the old-fashioned way. I just thought, stood there, was like, BS, crap, no. All right, so the next distillery I went to is like, look, we can actually have everything, we can control everything with a mouse click, which is much better. So, more efficient. Yes, you still need the human touch to know when to have the cuts, but it's not something I would be proud of to not have a computer. And now they're being proud of not having a robots. Okay, help me real quick. Where do we have robots making whiskey in the world? I don't know. So, but hey, all right, no robots. It might be a gag, but it's just like, but it's just something like, rubs me the wrong way. All right, and aged a minimum 2 years. Now this is batch 3. This is bottle 1996. This is a bourbon. Now over here in Europe, you can only sell whiskey, and it does say very at the bottom here, bourbon whiskey. You are only allowed to sell whiskey in Europe that is at least 3 years of age. Under 3 years of age, it's not a whiskey. It's a spirit, but it's not a whiskey. Now, bourbon is protected, so I guess we can sell bourbon under the 3-year-old mark, but still. All right, so now on the side, still, let's put a little bit in the bottle. Now, before we put in the glass, all right. So look at the bottle. We have a nice little glass topper. When you ever have one of these, take your thumb, and if you're going to like pop off a cap from something, and then it just goes off. If you have it here, and you try turning, sometimes you can get it off, sometimes not. This is glass, so it's a nice little glass cork with that that plastic rubber seal there. Waterford has them. A lot of wine bottles have them, and even Ransom has them. Now, Ransom has been distilling now for 25 years. No, not the entire time whiskey. They started off with other things. I'll talk about that in a different video, but they've been there for 25 years. Now, I'm going to also talk about a Henry D. Yours rye whiskey from Ransom. I'll also be talking about it's called the rye, the barley, the wheat whiskey from Ransom. And last but not least, I'll also be talking about the Emerald 1865, which is a pot still whiskey made in America, which is very, very interesting, to be honest there. All right, so this is not made exclusively in Oregon. So on the side it says here, and I hate this. All right, so I hated they have to write down produced and bottled by T. Henry Ransom, Sheridan, Oregon, USA, DSP OR 15, distilled in Oregon and Indiana. Now, I am not sure if there are any regulations about an order. Now, I do know they have ingredients. The ingredients is the most, has to be first. So does that mean there's more, or the most of this whiskey was made in Oregon and then Indiana? Is that a rule that you have to put in where the more came from? I'm not really sure there. All right, so, and then they talk about all their cuts, and they talk about the hand-selected casks. They talk about everything that they do here, about meticulously milling the grain. They talk about the premium ingredients, about the mashing, fermenting, and most importantly, making well-considered cuts. Now, with your own whiskey in Oregon, I'm sure you do that, but I'm not sure at MGP in Indiana they did it. And all that information here on the side of the bottle is just for me a lot of marketing, blah, blah. I think Ralphie says flannel. All right, so I'm a little bit disappointed on the side of the bottle, but hey, I always rant and rave about what's on the label, and then I taste the whiskey and I either like it or I don't, and that's the most important thing. So what am I going to compare it to? I'm going to compare it to the King. Well, it says here, King of the Bootleggers, George Remus. And it's a straight bourbon whiskey from MGP. It's 47%. This is 44%. Now, I did say I was going to tell you a little bit about the mash bill of the Ransom. And I just have a little bit left in the bottle here, which is great for me. Get to have another bottle kill, which is important. The Ransom here, actually, they do say it on their website here. They say this is newly released this year. I have no idea if this year is 2023, 2022, 2019. All right, so our Ransom Bourbon is distilled in Oregon and Indiana, aged a minimum of 2 years in charred American oak. Interesting, it does not say new. But hey, okay. Including, and that's what I'm not sure about is the wording here, including 12-year-old barrels from our French Umbilique pot stills. So were the barrels 12 years old, or was the spirit in the barrels 12 years of age? I know I'm nitpicking here, but it could be misunderstood. All right, so made up of a unique 4-grain mash bill, 66% corn, 23% rye, 6% wheat, and 4% malted barley. Grown on our own organic farm, you will experience classic bourbon aromas with notes of toffee and soft caramel and blah, blah, blah. Don't want to read that. Blah, didn't hear that, didn't read that. How can the 4% malted barley be grown on the organic farm when you mix Indiana with Oregon juice? Primarily grown on our organic farm. So just some things there about the wording, about that, I'm not really fond of. All right, so if you take a look at the color here, you'll see they're almost the same. All right, on the nose. Now it's getting into the interesting part. This is where you just forget all that marketing, blah, and you can concentrate on the most important part. Is it a good whiskey? All right, so on the nose. Oh, I like. Complain, and then sniff it and go, oh, that's interesting. Brown sugar. Caramel. A little bit of toffee. A tiny little bit of powdered chocolate. Like Nesquik. Cinnamon. Orange zest. And even a dark, rich forest honey. That's good. That's really nice. Over here, a little bit greener, a little bit younger, a little bit less deep and complex. Now, to be very transparent and honest, I'm not the biggest fan of George Remus. I don't like the name. Do not name your whiskey after a wife killer. Sorry. Full stop. If you don't know his story, Google it. He was a wife killer, got off. First person to plead temporary insanity for killing his wife. And we name a whiskey after the guy. Not what we should be doing. MGP. So sorry there. Even going back, this has more of a vanilla, softness, depth. This is something I'd like to just hang around with for a little bit longer. That's very nice. Now, it has to be natural color because it's bourbon. Unfortunately, I do know of individual cases of where bourbon in Germany, bottled in Germany, actually had on its label mit Farbstoff, with coloring. Now, that's not allowed, but there was labels on the bottle that said they had done it to it. Now, if this was just a over-jealous caution, this because it could have happened to something along the way, or if this was just true, I don't know. But I've seen bottles in my own hand where there was, with the label on there, including artificial or caramel coloring. This is nice. Let's try this. All right. I would love to know. Didn't ask. It's not my job to go ask the distillery here. It's their job to tell me the percentage. Is this 5% orange juice? Is it 95% orange juice? Or probably, I'm going to say 10% orange juice, 90% MGP or something else. I don't know. It'd be good to hear. I do know that at least in one press release, their goal is that everything they do will be from Oregon, which I commend them for that. But in that transitional phase of using MGP juice as well as their own juice, it would be nice, if at all possible, from the viewpoint of a dumb American over in Germany, to know what percentages in batch 3. I'm sure batch 1 would be more and less of their own, but if you have 12-year-old juice laying around, wow, fill that up and bottle that and give that to us rather than mixing it up. All right, the price in America, which is very, very interesting. On the website, this goes for $38. In Europe, it's 62 euros 90. So it's basically 45, what is that? It's not double. It's about 60, 70% more over here than it is in the States. Now, some middlemen, maybe some places getting a little bit of money there. But hey, we have something new that we never had before in Germany, so why not? Thank you. All right, let's try this. 44%. That's got some nice juice in there. That's going to be a B- whiskey. I like. Value for money over here. C-. Let's go for C- for 62 euros 90. 50 euro price point. I would not have complained as much. I always complain about price, don't we all? But I just think the 60-some is a little bit overvalued here for what you're getting. A 2-year-old statement. It is not no age. It's 2 years of age, at least, and it is 44%. Now, the finish is long. I still have it. There's a sweetness. There's an oak spice going on. There's a little bit of overripe, I'm going to go for raspberries in there. It's sweet, fruity, oaky, goodness. I like. It says here, I'm going to read their official tasting notes now. Classic bourbon aromas with notes of toffee, soft caramel mixed with sweet corn, rich and warm flavors that balance a soft oak influence and cereal grain with additional hints of cacao powder, anise, don't get that, deep honey mouthfeel. I did mention honey. The finish has a long, spicy rye warmth with orange zest that gives way to a final touch of malt. It does have 23% rye, so this is a high rye bourbon, and it's a 4-grain high rye bourbon. 66 corn, 23% rye, 6% wheat, and 4% malted barley. Nice. Very, very good. Let's go briefly over to the George Remus. Not as much depth. Younger. It does have 47. This has 44. A little bit more of a bite of the alcohol. It's still not too much. But there's a little bit of more of a youthfulness to this. A little bit more of a green wood sawdust moment going on here. You're using good new oak casks, but then you use good new oak casks longer, and it does mellow it out. It does give you a little bit more of a smoothness and silkiness that this definitely does not have. I was never a great fan of the George Remus. It's good whiskey. I mean, over here, we're going to pay 40 euros for it. Here, I'm going to pay 62. Is this basically 50% more on price? And is it 50% better in taste? Basically, yes. This is a solid C. This is a B minus. This is a C minus for value for money. C to C minus depends on what I compare it with. This is basically a C as well for price. 40 euros, can't go wrong with that. Let's go back one time real quick. WhiskyJason, am not a big fan of these glass toppers. I might just because I'm still not familiar with the advantages of them. I do like to have a cork. This is just kind of like click. So I don't have the satisfaction of that cork pop. Is it better than a screw top? It's more luxurious than a screw top. So I take out a Weller. I have a Weller someplace here. Where's my Weller? I have a Weller 12 back there someplace. There we go. So let's bring down a Weller here and make you, I don't know, jealous, but here, a Weller 12. So, and then, oh yeah, wow, we have a screw top. Yay. Nah. That's just a little bit of a letdown, and so that's not bad. It reminds me a little bit of an old Elijah Craig 12. Not the cast strength. I'm talking about the standard Elijah Craig. Remember those nice, bulky type of bottles there that looked a little like a barrel? Not the new ones. One day the age statement should return. We'll wait another 5 years or so. But yeah, very, very good. So my question of the day was and still is, what 4-grain bourbon do you also know? Cavol in Chicago has a 4-grain whiskey, but it's not a bourbon. So what other distillery do you know, or distilleries have a 4-grain? I have a Jim Beam back there, 6-grain bourbon, but that's 15 years old, I would guess. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for subscribing and sharing and watching the other 3 videos about Ransom. Let's see how well these things stock up and compare. And at the very end, I'll do all 4 versus each other in a blind battle and see which one I like. Thank you. All the best. See you soon. Whiskey Jason. Bye-bye.